Jeff H. Malum, Backfire, Volume 1, in Solitude. Prologue. Do you know that feeling? You plan a certain event or journey or whatever to celebrate a certain occasion, but everything just ends up in a big mess? Well, of course you do. Or maybe you do, but most certainly not the way I experienced it. My life was changed back then, and many things did that are far more important than just my life, or anybody's life. My name is Julian T. Crow, and I will tell you everything. Everything that happened back then and ever since up until now. You've probably already heard these stories if you can read this, but perhaps you didn't. Who knows? Maybe you'll somehow find this document long after I'm gone and long after those who could tell what happened are gone. For me, it all began in Georgetown, or rather on my way there. It was finally done. After 13 skull-breaking years at school, her qualification for university matriculation was set in stone and the respective certificate in our bags. It's been hell of a ride of sky-reaching ups and melting at Earth's core, almost breaking out again at the other side of the world-ish downs. But there we were. My future was already super clear. I wanted to leave old Bluetown and North Pensaria, and moving to the capital, Port Embra, I was about to start university and the subject of psychology. Nothing really stood in my way. However, before once and for all leaving the area, me and my closest friends planned on having some nice time in Georgetown, a port city in northwestern Kingsland. It was my best friend Kian's idea to go there together with the 7 others. He drove the van. It was freaking hot outside, and of course our AC was broken. I mean, the AC broke occasionally, but why on earth would it have to be on the hottest day of the year so far? It's not like the 9 sweating teenagers of us had to be in that car for quite a couple of hours. Oh wait, it was that way. Kian's blonde hair stuck to his flat forehead, but I was already used to that look. This is basically how he always looked like when he returned from handball training or the fitness center or whatever sports opportunity he could find. That's who he was, the big, athletic guy with his supreme maleness. Oh, yes, he defined being male by being strong and cold and pissing against the garden fence rather than going to the toilet, but apart from that, he was quite a nice guy. I mean, I used to call him my best friend, right? I could always count on him. Whatever the issue, he always helped me and had some advice. You know what I think? He acted. He acted male, but his heart was weak and golden. I even liked his absolutely unnecessary comments in class, even though sometimes they were truly unnecessary. But whatever. School lied in our past, just like that certain disgusting teacher who we almost ran over when we started our trip to Georgetown, just because she's always just been way too incompetent in sticking to traffic rules, or school rules, or any rules. It was a couple of hours later that half of the way was behind us and Kian's shift ended. He left the driver's seat and went to sit by his sleeping boyfriend. His name was Rickard Toffel. Yes, Toffel and not Truffle. Please don't mix that up. He always got upset over that bad joke. Just like his boyfriend, he was tall, blonde, and super smart. Even though he always laid his thoughts on the line, sometimes spoke out way too non-sensitive, everybody loved him. Honestly, I've heard many people backbite on so many others in school, but no one ever lost a bad word about Rickard. There was just never a reason for that. At some point, however, he lost that outspeaking characteristic when the new situation made him feel insecure and he got lost in thoughts and sorrows. Who knows, maybe he just never wanted to take anybody's hopes in the first place. Well, at this time, however, he was still how everybody knew him. "Yo, Essie, take a look in the driving mirror, seeing Donna's tits bounce. Lena whispered to Asphalt. Sadly, that suited her. She also never minced her words, but, well, in another way. Her strength, however, was clearly muscle training rather than whispering. David leaned towards her and spit. "Shut the fuck up, asshole!" The 6.5 feet tall man mountain was the boyfriend of shy Donna, with a dark brown, everflat and long to infinity hair. David wore a checkered chevet, just like he always did. After a short break, Asfat took the driver's shift. As before, the journey kept going quite unproblematically until, certain miles further, Asfat suddenly slammed the brakes. David, who had not buckled up, almost flew through half the van. Most of the sleepers awoke, and all the bags and bottles got shaken up. Before flying, David had fallen asleep, and now, full of frustration and accusations, he stared at Asfat. I knew that face of David. He always put it on in school when something rubbed him up the wrong way. What specifically, you ask? Well, basically everything. Bad marks, tinglers by the teachers, school in the morning, school at 12, school in the afternoon, etc., etc., etc. We all got surprised by the sudden stop, but only David spoke out. "The heck, man!" I looked into Asfat's face and saw his huge eyes widening and his small mouth swinging up. I never really saw what people used to say in school, but this time he really looked like a fish. Next, I spotted something on the street. Something red and brownish. It was a run-over squirrel. Now I got it. "Just drive around, buddy," I whispered, trying to calm the intense animal lover. He closed his eyes, swallowed once or twice, took a heavy breath, and then he drove around it in a circle as big as his eyes. The more time passed, the quieter it became inside the van. Everyone was still somehow shocked, or at least re-arised by the sudden stop. I could only hear the vague snore of Roberto. Him and Christopher, they missed the whole show and peacefully slept on. Unlike Roberto, however, Christopher was deadly quiet. Round about 6.5 hours later, we finally arrived. In front of us there was a plain, white, cubish house we rented as a vacation residence. Its walls were painted with man-sized windows and some black-colored art. We stopped, and before even entering, discussion started on who was to take which room and together with whom. Originally, the plan was to go by 11 people, but Sarah and Valis couldn't come in the end. Since they joined the plan last minute, they had to find another way of journeying because the van was already stuffed. Well, long story short, their parents didn't allow them to take one of their cars, so they dropped out last second. Good thing is, one more free room. "Christopher, Asfat, would you mind doing the barbecue groceries for tomorrow morning?" I heard Rickard grouchingly shouting. While everybody was putting their clothes in the closets, discovering old books and magazines in the house's many shelves, turning on the TVs, or whatever sounds occurred from Roberto's room, I just fell into my king-sized bed. I couldn't sleep a wink on our journey, so now was the time. It only took a few seconds until everything softly turned mute.